Good morning, welcome to the channel. It is Wednesday and I'm starting the first video in a week. I haven't recorded and this is weird. By the way, if you are here for my tracing talk, then I'll leave a timestamp in the description below so that you can go and see what my thoughts are about tracing, because that's what I'm going to use for the title and thumbnail today. So that yeah, if you're here just for that and you're not a regular and you don't want to listen to me ramble on about art stuff and life stuff, then you can skip ahead. But if you are a regular here and you know what is to come and you like my rambling, then obviously stay. I just want to talk about some stuff that went on when I wasn't recording. I did a lot of art over the weekend, and partly it was because I was preparing for this tracing video, but also because I was just really inspired to do a lot of art and I was really happy with that. And the carnival thing, I know I kind of just stopped about that, or did I? No, I didn't. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. I obviously started uploading my Sims videos, and that was because I knew that Caden was going to be off for a week, so I didn't really catch you up on that last week, and I've kind of went stagnant with that. I did my candy apple illustration that you can see now, and I did my lollipop illustration, which I'm not happy with. I think it's maybe too simple or just not enough, too wonky, or the colours are wrong. I don't know what's wrong with it in my eyes, but something is. So yeah, but I did those two, and I've kind of went stagnant on the whole carnival thing because I don't know, I'm just not feeling it at the moment, but I do plan on working on that soon. It might be to do with the fact that I may have purchased a screen tablet for my PC and I'm just waiting for that to come because I'm so excited about it, but more on that when the time is closer, because I don't know when it's going to appear here. It is going to take a while, so yeah, but it might be to do with that. I'm like, I don't want to draw anything until I get that, but I'm going to try and do some sketching on that this week. And yeah, another announcement. I launched my 15 new products in my shop at the weekend, and I'm so happy. Thank you to the people who have ordered. If you have ordered and it still says pending, or you haven't received the dispatch notification yet, that's because I haven't done it, because the storm was really bad on Monday and Tuesday and I've had Caden home all week, so I probably should have waited for the launch for a little bit more, but I did put on the actual products itself that dispatch would be 2 to 3 days, so I'm going to try my hardest to get them out today, but I do have a lot to do still today. I have to record a few videos and I have to do some subtitling for a client, so I'm going to try my hardest. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut the stickers that I need to cut today in a second once I've had my breakfast, and that's exciting. So yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to catch you up on, and I think that we can move on to something else, i.e. the tracing thing. So I'm going to have my breakfast first and then do the stickers, and then I'll sit down to talk to you about what I think about tracing. And I hope that you had an awesome weekend, and that you have an awesome week ahead and weekend ahead, and I'll pick this up in a minute. Okay, I'm back. I've had my breakfast. I have packed the orders. I'm gonna go and take them to the post office once I am finished here. Okay, before we get into this tracing video, this tracing thing, I want to talk about two pieces that I did over the weekend that relate to my shop and myself. But I did trace these drawings from old artwork of my own, and I think that's completely fine if you want to trace your own artwork. But before I go into that, I just want to say that I don't want to shame anybody who traces. I don't want to shame people who don't trace. I don't want to shame anybody, and I just want to share my opinions, my thoughts and my experiences with tracing. And the community has been sort of touching on this subject a lot, and I just want to put my 2 cents out there. So please don't bash me or bash anybody in the comments for their opinions. It's just purely opinions and the way that you feel about it. And if you want to trace, then go ahead and do it, but please listen to me first before you do that. And if you don't want to trace and you want to learn completely without tracing, then that's fine too. So this drawing that you can see me doing right now is my waffle drawing, and I took my old artwork, my old sketch from that art. I did it traditionally and I didn't record it, so I don't have that footage, but I traced over the actual piece that I did before, and then I coloured it in digitally. It was originally done in watercolour, and I like this version so much better. I think obviously it could still be improved. There are parts of it where I think I maybe have went too textural, too grainy, but I really like this. If it was up to me, I probably would completely change the composition of this and do it completely differently, and have the strawberries be in different positions and the blueberries in different positions, but I just wanted to keep it close to the original but better colouring, and I think that I pulled that off. So yes, if you trace your own artwork, we're not talking about that. We are not talking about tracing your own artwork if you do a sketch and then trace it with a light box to put it on a clean piece of paper or redo it or something like that. I think that's totally fine, and it's completely justifiable to do that. And yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, that if you have a drawing that you want to improve, or you want to cleanly transfer to watercolour paper or whatever, or digitally, then you can do that, and that's completely fine. It has no effect on your ability to draw or learn or grow. It just means that it's just quicker, easier and better to get the sketch that you want down on the piece of paper that you are doing the finished artwork on. So I was messing around with styles here, and I took that disc away. The only reason I put that disc there was because of the pancake, which you're going to see in a second, and I'll start talking about that too. The pancake was also one that I did traditionally in the same week as I did the waffles. Here it is. And I just want all of my styles to be digital for now. I might go back to watercolour eventually, but I just want to do the digital versions so that I can have them all be consistent. So I'm working on doing obviously the waffle and the pancakes, the muffin, the donut, the other things that are on there as well, the bagel and all that. I can't remember exactly, but again, went a little bit too grainy with this, but I really like the outcome of it. And again, I did trace my previous sketch onto digital so that I could get the same shape but colour it digitally. So now we are on to my next piece of art, which is this self-portrait, and I posted this on Twitter, and I felt weird about this because, as you can see, I did trace the outline of my hair and my jacket, or my jumper rather, and the contours of the features and all that stuff. But then I changed up the eyes, and even though I changed up the eyes, I still traced this. So I didn't do it completely from scratch, and I felt weird. Really weird to post this online and not tell anybody that I traced it, because if you are a beginning artist and you see some artwork and you go, oh wow, I really like that, I wish I could draw like that, and they don't know that it's traced, then they're gonna feel like it's impossible to reach that stage and wonder why they can't get the accuracy that you get because you've traced it. I know that professionals and realistic artists trace the outlines of animals or portraits so that they can speed up the process, and that's completely fine as well. Whatever, do you basically, because apparently it's to speed it up. But if you don't know the fundamentals to start with and you're just doing it because you don't actually know how to draw, then I would highly recommend learning how to draw and not tracing until you know exactly how to draw. In fact, I would, in my own opinion, would suggest not to trace at all, because I just don't think that it's helpful to anybody for learning how to draw. If you are learning and you want to know how to draw things, then tracing, to me, and I'll tell you why later on in the video, is not a really good way to learn how to draw. There are much better ways that you can learn how to draw and teach yourself these techniques. So that's the self-portrait that I did trace, and I didn't even like the outcome of this. Yeah, I don't like the lines, I don't like the eyes, I don't like the shading, I don't like the way that it came out, basically. So even though I traced it, I didn't like it. And I'll put pictures of these as well after the thing, I don't know. Anyway, here's the next one, and again I traced this but very loosely this time, so just the outlines of the hair and the face, and then I went in with features of my own and traced it or drew them myself. And again, I didn't really feel like I did this justice. I think I could have did it better if I wasn't trying to put myself into a box where I had to get the proportions right, and it just looks weird because I've put this big green thing on her and then a tiny little head with loads of hair. And I just didn't like the way this came out either. It was alright, but it wasn't even shareable online because I didn't really want to share it. Now this one is a study from an artist here on Instagram. We're not on Instagram, we're on YouTube, but she is on, or he, or whoever it is, they are on Instagram. Their name is Yo-Yo Sketch, and I really like her characters, so I decided to copy her art. Just copy it and see what I liked of how they did it and just learn from it. And I think that this is a better way of learning. Obviously you can't post it online. This is for practice only. I haven't traced it, but I have copied it directly. Maybe tweaked some things like colours here and there just because I couldn't get the same colours. And I just think that this is a much better way of learning to draw, because you're copying the styles that you like and you're seeing how they do the lines and colour the things and all that. And I think this is a much better way to study art that you enjoy. I'll figure it out. But yeah, just copying artists that you enjoy, not saying that it's your own art, not even sharing it. You don't have to share this. This is just for practice. And then maybe after you do a study, you can go on to try and do your own rendition of a different style of portrait, adding in the things that you have learned from each creator that you've been studying from and from your past self as well. And I just think that even though this is wonky and it could have been better, I still enjoyed this more than tracing my own face and tracing a photograph and then colouring it in. Next up we have this one, which is a stylised character, and I copied the structure from a Skillshare class. I'll leave all the links to everything that you need to know about in the description. And I used this grid, and then I used a reference from Pinterest for the character, and it was a real person. But then I just changed it to the style that I wanted to draw in. It wasn't really the style that I'm actually going for, and the teeth are weird and everything, but I think that using grids like these are much better again than tracing. The way that I did this was completely sort of from my mind, but also I was copying the way that the girl was shutting her eyes and her mouth position, her nose and her clothes, and also her hair, but I was doing it in a more cartoony style than the photograph, because obviously it's a real person, it's not photorealism or anything like that. And I did have fun doing this, and I do think that I should use the grid more often, and I don't think that people should be ashamed to use the grid, because even though, I don't know, I felt ashamed to be using it. Like it's a tool though, and a lot of people will argue that tracing is a tool and it should be used in the same way as grids, but I just think it's completely different. Anyway, let's go on to this, where I used the grid from the class again, but I didn't use a reference in the sense where I wanted to copy exactly what she looked like or for facial features. I used the reference for composition, hair and freckles, and that was it. But I had a really fun time doing this and I really enjoyed it, and I felt like a couple of lines underneath isn't going to be as bad as just tracing her outline of her face, because in stylized portraits you don't want to do realistic facial features or realistic face proportions. Well, maybe you might, but people tend to change it up, make the chin a little bit smaller or pointier, make the cheeks and the mouth a little bit bigger, or make the eyes a little bit bigger and the nose a little bit smaller. I actually made the nose quite large compared to what it was on the reference picture, but again, I had fun with this, and I think that it's okay to use guidelines, like I said, and I think that people should be encouraged to use guidelines. I know that there will be some people that are very close to me that will disagree with this, but I think that there's nothing wrong with using guidelines. Even if you draw them yourself, you measure out a box, a grid, a square, and I know that people argue that the masters traced and this is how they did it and stuff, but I just feel like if you're going to trace, at least tell people that you've traced it, the outline, or that that's how you work, because I don't know, I think it's very damaging for people to pretend that they did it from freehand. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, and that's why I'm struggling to find my words, but yeah, I just think that if you want to learn how to draw characters from your mind, you've got to learn from scratch. Again, using this grid because I really liked it, I copied the sketch again, but more loosely. Sorry, no I didn't. I used the grid again, but I used it a lot more loosely this time, and I also had a reference, but I didn't follow the reference too closely. I changed the position of her eyes. I gave her a lot more of a cartoony vibe. I drew my own lips and nose, but still kept the sort of general shape of them, and I really like this a lot. It was a very quick sketch and I enjoyed doing it, and again, I think using the grid is fine, and using guidelines like the circle for the head and then the line down the middle and the line across and all that is just ways for you to get the proportions right. And we're only human, we need to learn how to do this, and using a grid is not shameful, I don't think, or guidelines rather, not really a grid as such, but guidelines of where to go. And I think that the box grid is sort of revolutionary to me because I didn't think of that before. I took the Skillshare class and I really like the use of the grid. Here, sorry about all the lips, but I was taking the class and I did these lips, and then I decided to attach the face that was on the left screen of my iPad. It was a picture from reference, and I wanted to from Pinterest, and I wanted to draw it, and as you can see, I didn't put any guidelines in. I just went by the contours of her face and the positioning of them, and just my general knowledge based on what I know about how to draw faces. And yes, granted, it is wonky, it's not 100% accurate, but at the same time, I think this has a lot more flair, a lot more character to it, and I think it has a lot more of me in it, and it just feels a lot more organic and nice. And I did post this one on the internet because I felt better about it. I felt good about the way that I did this portrait. And then I'm going to show you a couple of more things that I did after this. And you'll see that, and this is very scary because I actually delete this, like I rub it out, erase it, but I actually copied it and pasted it onto a different canvas before I deleted it from this one, and here it goes here, watch. There we go, it's gone. And then I'm doing lip studies, and I think that the best way to learn and to not be disheartened by art is to learn from scratch, learn the fundamentals, do separate studies of faces, noses, mouths, eyes, everything. Just continue to practice and you will get to a point where you feel like you are able to draw. And I think it's really important to go from the beginning, not tracing, right to the end, or continue forever actually, there is no end, on learning how to draw this way, because you pick up so much different things that you wouldn't pick up if you were tracing along the way. And I want to tell you a little story. In high school, my teacher taught us how to trace. He gave us a bit of paper, he gave us a drawing or a
reference picture, and he told us to go out into the hall where it was light, put the picture of the thing on the window and trace the outline of it. And he taught us how to do that multiple times. He told us that it was okay to trace. He basically based his whole class around tracing. And for the longest time, that's what I did. From high school all the way until 2015, I traced outlines of reference pictures to do portraits. And I failed my exam, my art exam, by the way, because he told us that after doing 2 years of tracing, we weren't allowed to trace for an exam. And I failed it because I had no clue how to do proportions. I had no clue how to do where to position the facial features. I had no clue how to do any of it, and I felt like tracing wasn't sort of propelling my muscle memory any further. It wasn't really teaching me where things went or how they go, basically, because I wasn't thinking about shapes. I was thinking about lines, just tracing the lines. He didn't teach us how to learn how to draw from tracing. He just taught us how to trace. And I feel like if you think of the facial features as shapes rather than lines, you're gonna get on a lot better, because shapes can be three-dimensional, they can be 2D, and you can draw them and shade them in a way that makes you understand facial features a lot more. If you think about everything as a shape instead of a thing, for example, lips, if you think of those as like a hexagon shape, and you draw the hexagon shape and then you kind of chisel out the features of the mouth, then you will understand it a lot better. Same with noses. If you think about this as an upside down triangle and then, you know, like a ball on top, and then chisel it out that way, you will understand it a lot better. And I just feel like a lot of people have basically, I don't think it's healthy to have an artist, a really good popular artist, posting things online saying that they have done this artwork and they haven't traced it, because tracing and drawing something freehand is completely different. And if a beginner, like I said before, looks at that and says, oh, I really want to draw like that, how am I going to get there? And nobody shares that they trace. Why are people not telling people that they trace if they think that it's okay? The only reason people are coming out and saying that they trace now is because it's a topic. People are getting angry with each other. People are saying, you can't tell me not to trace because Monet did it, or like Van Gogh did it, or whatever, and the professionals do it to save time, and that's fine. Honestly, do you? I don't care. But I just feel like, in my own experience, tracing has actually hindered my process. It's hindered my learning. It's hindered me being able to draw characters and draw objects and things. And as soon as I stopped tracing and I actually sat down and learned about shape and form and space and 3Dness and negative shapes and positive shapes and shading and all that stuff, I had a much better time. I was enjoying art a lot more, and I felt that it was much easier to draw things like that, in that way. I also want to quickly mention that I don't want to call anybody out, but there is an artist, or a couple of artists, that are very popular in the art world, and they have traced a photograph online and then they are selling it on their shops as their own artwork. Wrong. No, don't do that. Photographers are artists as well. They come up with the composition, the lighting, the way that people are sitting, and like the pose in the picture. They come up with the colours, and even they might spend hours editing that photo to make it look good on a monitor versus on like a printed piece of paper, and then you go ahead and trace it and then sell it. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's stealing. That's stealing. You've stole somebody's artwork. You've stole somebody's hard work. Photography is art. If you trace somebody's photograph of a celebrity or of anybody, to be honest, and then you sell that online to profit from it, that's stealing. That's stealing. If you're tracing to learn, okay, maybe I might say you're fine with it, but if you're tracing to then colour it in and put it on your shop to make money, wrong. Don't do it. Please don't do that. Please, please, please learn how to draw yourself. If you want to draw a picture of a celebrity, just don't sell it. It's not your work. That person hasn't even given you permission to draw them and to sell it. You can't do it. Please don't do it. It's fan art. You can't do it. It gets me so mad because I know for a fact that back when I was a little teeny girl, and well, not teeny girl, but I was coming into the art world and I was coming into online. I didn't really understand it very well. I drew a picture of Katy Perry and I'll pop it up on the screen right now. And I thought that because I changed the way that I did the brush strokes and it wasn't realistic art, that I could sell that. I put it on my Redbubble and it got flagged. And it said that it was copyrighted because it was a copyrighted picture of a person's face. Maybe Katy Perry didn't want people to draw her and sell her face for profit. Maybe the person that took the picture didn't want people to gain money from their artwork that has been traced or copied or whatever. I can't remember if I traced or copied that. I'm not sure. I probably did trace it, but I know for a fact that I wouldn't get away with it. So why are other artists getting away with this, where they trace photos that they steal online and they just sell them on their shops? It really, really bugs me. And I'm sorry if I'm giving off a vibe of negativity, but just with my experience and the fact that I traced for so long and then I couldn't draw when I came off of tracing, it really upset me. I felt like I wasted years and years of drawing, of practicing. I could be practicing, I could be learning shape and form, I could be learning how to draw properly, and instead I just traced and coloured it in. And I didn't even have that much understanding of shape and form anyway, so the portraits looked like the people, but they weren't good. They were flat, they were 2D, they weren't good. So I don't know. I don't recommend tracing for beginners just because of my experience. And I know that people have had good experiences with tracing. They say that it made them understand how to do this, or it made them understand shape and form, and it made them understand where to put the features and all that stuff. And that's fine if that's you. But for me personally, I just don't think that beginners should start tracing. I think that professionals, if they want to do that, they can trace, but just please tell people that you trace. The reason it feels wrong for you to tell people that you trace is because it's not from you, it's not your artwork. You've traced it and then you've coloured it in. Obviously, I think that when people do commissions, like pets, and people want the pet to look exactly like the pet, and you tell them, I'm going to trace the outline and then I'm going to put my own spin on it with my colours or whatever medium you use, then I think that's completely fine as well. But I just feel like if you pretend that you draw, not even pretend, you might not think that you're pretending, but because you're not saying it, it means you're pretending that you don't trace. And I don't think that's good. I just feel like if beginners look, again, I'm going back to the whole beginner thing, but if beginners look at a thing online, they could end up like me. They could trace. If somebody says, go ahead and trace, it'll teach you this, and they give the beginner a sort of rundown of tracing like my teacher did, they could end up like me, absolutely hating the result they get when they stop tracing. I hated the results I was getting. I felt really, 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 really bad about how I traced, and I felt really bad about how I couldn't draw, and I'm still suffering with it from this day. I still think in the back of my mind, if I traced that, I could make it look the way that I wanted it to, but I say no. I need to learn how to do it myself so that I can do it in the style that I want to. And that's another way that your style can come out more often, is that if you do not trace, then your style will come out more and more, because you can't get a style if you're tracing somebody else's work, if you're tracing a photograph, or if you're tracing somebody else's artwork. Somebody else's artwork is a completely different story. Just don't do that, fullstop.com. I don't care if you're an artist, a professional artist, a beginner, mediocre, whoever you are, don't trace other people's work and pretend that it's your own. That's wrong. I'm basically kicking myself in the butt for the amount of times that I traced, and for the length of time that I traced. And when I stopped tracing, I felt like I came back to square one. I felt like I wasn't, it just felt like I hadn't been drawing for 10 years. It felt like I had been drawing for less than that. And I know that a lot of people will say, well, why did you trace for 10 years? But I just thought that it was okay. I didn't know that it wasn't. Internet wasn't a thing back then. I find it incredibly upsetting that there are people that just use tracing for monetary gain that isn't their work, and I feel like people need to be stopped. Again, you do you. These are my opinions. I'm going to stop talking now because this video has went on long enough, but I had a lot to say about it, and I'm sorry if it was jumbled. But if you could tell me in the comments below what you think about tracing, if you agree with any of the points that I said, or if you disagree with anything that I said, then tell me in the comments below. But please keep it friendly. Don't start shouting at each other or shouting at me, because these are just my opinions. And if anybody wants to debunk me or whatever for sharing my opinions, then bye. I'll see you later.